Hello guys, today I am taking the first chapter of B.D. Chaurasia's Brain Neuroanatomy textbook, first chapter, the introduction. The nervous system, this textbook explains about the nervous system in human body. The neuroanatomy means the anatomy of the nervous system of the human body. So let's start. So nervous system is the chief controlling and coordinating system of the body. It is responsible for judgment, intelligence and memory. Nervous system is highly evolved at the cost of regeneration. It is the most complex system of the body. And it adjusts the body to surroundings and regulates all bodily activities, both voluntary and involuntary. What? It adjusts the body to surroundings, adjusts to the our body to the surroundings and regulate all bodily activities, inside body activities, all bodily activities, both voluntary and involuntary. It adjusts. So the sensory part of the nervous system collects information from the surroundings and helps in gaining knowledge and experience, whereas the motor part is responsible for the response of the body. So there are two types, sensory and motor. Which are the parts of the nervous system? There are sensory part and motor part. What is the duty of sensory part? What is the function? Sensory part of the nervous system collects the information from the surroundings. Sensory collects information from surrounding. And the another part is motor. Motor part of the nervous system. What is the function of motor part? This sensory part collects the information from the surroundings and helps in gaining knowledge and experience, whereas the motor part is responsible for responses of the body. Motor part is responsible for response of body. The average weight of the adult man in air is 1500 grams. Adult brain, average weight of the adult brain in the air is 1500 grams. Average weight, adult brain, 1500 grams. Since the brain floats in the cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid, don't you know what is cerebrospinal fluid? Cerebrospinal fluid is a fluid that flows through the brain and spinal cord. And since the brain floats in the cerebrospinal fluid, it only weighs 50 grams, which is comfortable. Okay, did you understand? Cerebrospinal fluid. This brain floats in the cerebrospinal fluid, so it only weighs 50 grams. 50 grams in cerebrospinal fluid. Okay. There are about 180 to 200 billion neurons in adult brain. How much neurons are there in human body? Neurons in not human body, not in brain. How much neurons are there? There are 180 to 200 million neurons in brain, in human brain. 180 to 200 million neurons. So that is very rich. And now we are going to discuss about the divisions of nervous system. Divisions of nervous system. Divisions of nervous system is mainly anatomical and functional. So divisions of Divisions of nervous system. Divisions of nervous system mainly anatomical, mainly in anatomical and functional. In anatomical, it is divided into central nervous system, which comprises brain and spinal cord. In anatomical, CNS, central nervous system. It's divided into central nervous system, which comprises brain and spinal cord. And it is responsible for integrating, coordinating the sensory information and ordering the appropriate motor actions. Okay, it is responsible. What? CNS, central nervous system, which is responsible for integrating, coordinating the sensory information and ordering the appropriate motor actions. And CNS is the seat of learning, memory, intelligence and emotions. And this CNS is responsible for learning, memory, then what? Learning, memory, intelligence and emotions. Okay, and there is in anatomical there is another classification is peripheral nervous system, PNS. Peripheral nervous system. It includes 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. This PNS is again classified 12 pairs of cranial nerves and how much? 31 pairs of 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay. And these provide afferent impulses to CNS. Afferent impulses, what is afferent impulses? We will discuss about it later. Afferent impulses to the CNS and carries efferent impulses to the muscles. Afferent impulses are there and efferent impulses are there. Afferent impulses are afferent impulses to the CNS and carries the different efferent impulses to the muscles, glands and blood vessels. And that is the function of peripheral nervous system. What is? Carries afferent impulses to brain, afferent impulses to CNS or brain, and carries efferent impulses to where? Carries efferent impulses to muscles, glands and blood vessels. That's the function of peripheral nervous system. So here it is anatomic classification CNS and PNS. CNS is central nervous system and PNS is peripheral nervous system. CNS comprises of brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system comprises of 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. And divisions of nervous system, the second was functional. First we discussed about anatomical and we are going to discuss in functional. In functional there are several classifications. Functional. Peripheral nervous system functionally has two components. We discussed that, we said that afferent neurons and efferent neurons. Afferent impulses and efferent impulses we discussed in anatomical section, anatomy classification. So the peripheral nervous system functionally has two components, afferent component and efferent component. First we are going to discuss about afferent component. So peripheral nervous system has mainly functionally has two components. What is peripheral nervous system? It comprises of 12 cranial nerves and 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. And this peripheral nervous system has functionally two components. The first one is afferent component. Afferent component provides the sensory information to the CNS. This afferent component provides sensory information to CNS. That's the duty of afferent component. And efferent component, the second one. Efferent component carries motor information to muscles. Motor information to muscles. That's the duty of efferent component. Afferent is provides sensory information to the CNS and carries motor information to the muscles. That's the duty of efferent component. And in this efferent component there are two types: somatic nervous system for the control of the skeletal muscles. That is somatic nervous system, and second one is automatic in the autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system. What is this somatic nervous system? Somatic nervous system for the control of the skeletal muscles. For control of skeletal muscles. And this autonomic nervous system for the control of heart. Control of heart, then smooth muscles of the organs. Heart, smooth muscles of organs, and these are involuntary. You can understand that is heart and smooth muscles of the organs, glands, and blood vessels, and etc. Blood vessels. These are involuntary. So this is autonomic nervous system work for involuntary. Somatic nervous system work for skeletal muscles, which is voluntary. Somatic nervous system for the control of skeletal muscles, and autonomic nervous system for the control of heart, smooth organs, glands, blood vessels. And this somatic and autonomic comes under the efferent component. Efferent component comes under peripheral nervous system. Efferent carries information to the muscles, and efferent can be classified into two: somatic and autonomic. Somatic for skeletal muscles carries information to skeletal muscles, and autonomic carries information to the heart, smooth organs, smooth muscle organs, and glands, blood vessels, etc. And in this autonomic nervous system, it is again subdivided into sympathetic, and parasympathetic. Sympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems in autonomic nervous system. Now we are going to discuss about cellular architecture. What is cellular architecture? The nervous tissue is made up of nerve cells or neurons. Second one is neural cells. So these two cells are used for the making of the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is made up of nervous tissue made of first one is nervous cells, neurons, or neurons or nerve cells. And second one is neuroglial cells. And these two components comprises to become a nervous tissue. So a nervous tissue is made up of neurons or nerve cells and neuroglial cells. Neuroglial cells, otherwise call it as neuroglia. This neuroglia forming the supporting or connective tissue of the CNS. A supporting or a connective tissue of central nervous system. This, what is the function of it? Neuroglia supporting or connective tissue. It is a supportive or a connective tissue of the CNS. Okay. In peripheral nerve system, peripheral nerve system there is spinal nerves and cranial nerves. In peripheral nerve system, these are replaced by Schwann cells. In this neuroglial cells is only in connective tissue, only in CNS. And this neuroglia is replaced in peripheral nerve system by Schwann cells. Schwann cells. And this Schwann cells is the connective tissue or supporting the peripheral nerve system. Okay. And these both types of cells, which is this in neuroglia, this is in neuroglial cells or in neuroglia and Schwann cells. Both types of cells are supplied by abundant blood vessels. And this Schwann cells and neuroglia these both types of cells are supplied by includes abundant blood vessels. Okay. And let's discuss about neuron. Neuron is nerve cell, a cell. Each neuron is made up of following. So we are going to discuss about neuron or nerve cells. Nerve cell. And each nerve cell or a neuron, a cell, contains the first a cell body. Cell body, what is cell body? Cell body is collectively they form grey matter and nuclei in the CNS. This cell body is the collectively they form grey matter and the nuclei in the CNS. This cell body they form grey matter collectively. This cell body in the collection of cell bodies collectively form grey matter and what? And nuclei in the CNS. And ganglia in the peripheral nerve system. What this cell body collectively form the grey matter and nuclei in CNS and ganglia. Ganglia in PNS, peripheral nerve system. Okay. And the second component in neuron is there are cell process of two varieties, which are the dendrites and the axon. Cell processes of two varieties. Cell processes of two varieties. The first one is dendrites. And the second one is axon. And dendrites is a Greek word, and its meaning is branch of tree. Like we see in the end of the cell body in the neuron there is dendrites, cell body dendrites, and there is an axon, a long axon type. If you don't understand, I will draw it. First, before that, I will say about dendrite. Dendrites are many short, richly branched, and often very coarse. And the second one is axon. Dendrites are many. And short, maybe short, and richly branched. And often very coarse. Richly branched and often very coarse. And the axon. Axon is a single elongated process. And collectively the axons axon collection. Collectively the axon form tracts. Collectively the axons form tracts. Or otherwise we call it as white matter. The collection of axons, tracts or white matter in the CNS, and this is in the collection of the axons form tracts or white matter in the CNS. And what will be the PNS? And nerves in the peripheral nerve system. And the collection of the axons are nerves in the peripheral nerve system. Okay. And the branches of the axons often arise at the right angles are called collaterals. The branches of axons often arise at the right angles 90 degree, and are called collaterals. That's 90 degree or right angle are called collaterals. And functionally, each neuron is specialized for sensitivity and conductivity. So each nerve cell is specialized for sensitivity and conductivity. The impulse can flow in them with great rapidity, in some cases about 125 meters per second. What? 125 meters per second is the rate of that movement. What movement? The impulses can flow in 125 meters per second. In 1 second, 125 meter impulses can flow in a neuron. A neuron shows dynamic polarity in its processes. A neuron or a nerve cell shows dynamic polarity in its processes. So I will write that points. 125 in neuron, 125 meter per second is the impulse flow in neuron. And another point is neuron shows dynamic polarity. Shows dynamic polarity. In its processes. The impulse flows towards the cell body in the dendrites and away from the cell body in the axon. Okay, I hope you understand. Now we have to discuss about a chart, divisions of nervous system. We already discussed about it and classified nervous system into central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and this in the central nervous system there are brain and spinal cord, and in peripheral nervous system there are cranial nerves and spinal nerves. And in these peripheral nerve systems, in peripheral nerves, there is a somatic and autonomic nerve system. We know that in peripheral nerve system there is somatic and autonomic nerve system. Somatic nerve system contains cranial nerves, which is in 12 pairs, and spinal nerves in 31 pairs, and autonomic nerve system, which comprises of sympathetic nerve system and parasympathetic nerve system. So this is the classification of nerve system. Nervous system is classified into two, CNS and PNS, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. And central nervous system is comprises of brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system comprises of somatic nerve system and autonomic nerve system. This somatic nerve system again classified into two, cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves 12 pairs and spinal nerves in 31 pairs. And autonomic nerve system is classified into two, sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve system. Now we are going to draw a neuron, a nerve cell, the structure of neuron. Neuron will be like this. I will draw. This is simply a structure of neuron, and this is in multipolar. Neurons are different types. There are multipolar, bipolar, pseudo-unipolar and unipolar are there based on their structures. And this is multipolar. So dear students, we know that there are multipolar, bipolar, pseudo-unipolar and unipolar nerves. The nerves are there in human body. So according to their number of their processes, there is classified neurons into multipolar, bipolar and pseudo-unipolar and unipolar. So let's move to more details about this multipolar. First, multipolar. Classification of neurons. It is a classification of neurons. Classification.
So first we can move to multipolar.
What is multipolar neuron? Most of the neurons in man are multipolar.
Let's make it point. Most of neurons in man.
Most of neurons in man are multipolar. For example, all motor and internuncial neurons.
Example, I will give example. All motor neurons.
All motor
And internuncial. What is internuncial neuron? And these neurons, all motor and all internuncial neurons,
are multipolar. So these internuncial neurons, otherwise we can call it as interneurons simply. Interneurons, that neurons are connected to brain regions, not direct motor and sensory neurons. It is connected to brain regions, so it's called interneuron. And all motor neurons, as we know that. Now let's move to bipolar neurons. Bipolar neurons. Bipolar neurons are confined to first neuron.
confined to first neuron.
Which confined to first neuron of retina ganglia of the 8th cranial nerve and the olfactory mucosa. So these bipolar neurons are confined to the first neuron of
where can we see that confined to first neuron of
where?
retina, then ganglia of 8th cranial nerve. 8th cranial nerve.
And where? And olfactory mucosa. So these are the places where bipolar neurons can be seen. So let's move to next
classification. Next type is pseudo unipolar.
Pseudo unipolar neurons. Pseudo unipolar neurons are actually unipolar to begin with, but become bipolar functionally. What did you understand? Pseudo unipolar. Pseudo means fake. Unipolar, as we know, single polar. Okay, are actually unipolar to begin with, but become bipolar functionally. Functionally it is bipolar, but structurally it is unipolar. Okay,
I am right.
actually
It is unipolar
to be unipolar,
but become bipolar
functionally.
Understand? Functionally it becomes bipolar. So it's called pseudo unipolar.
And this, where we can see this pseudo unipolar neurons, we can find it in dorsal nerve.
In dorsal nerve,
root ganglia.
dorsal nerve, root ganglia,
And sensory ganglia.
and sensory ganglia of cranial nerves. These are the places where we can see pseudounipolar in dorsal nerve root ganglia and sensory ganglia of cranial nerves.